A large wreck involving 21 cars occurred with 10 laps left in the Daytona 500 and resulted in a red flag with 9 laps to go. The wreck happened entering Turn 3 during a restart and was started when Paul Menard made contact with and-turned Matt DiBenedetto, who had led 49 laps. The wreck also collected defending race winner Austin Dillon, Erik Jones, Matt Tifft, Blaney, Aric Almirola, Daniel Suarez, David Ragan, Newman, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Daniel Hemric, Ty Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ryan Preece, Chris Buescher, Jimmie Johnson, William Byron, Joey Logano and Chase Elliott. It was go time and I was pushing the 95, DiBenedetto, and looked like he was trying to get to the middle, Menard told Fox. So I tried to get to the outside and just barely hooked him. I wrecked a lot of cars. That was my bad. I feel bad about that. When they started wrecking in turns 3 and 4 I saw it for a split second, Ragan told Fox. Before I could even do anything it looks like I'm underneath the 10 car, Almirola. They're looking at his rear end housing. The red flag lasts 24 minutes and 57 seconds. Just gonna throw this out there and then call it a day. Nobody hates this worse than we do. We were on the receiving end last weekend and it sucked just as bad. Paul races cleaner than anybody and we sure hate to have been all up in this one. Well, sorry it ended this way. Wood Brothers Racing, at Wood Brothers 21, February 17, 2019. Check back for more. Jimmie Johnson and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. were involved in a multi-car wreck with 41 laps remaining in the Daytona 500 as they attempted to enter pit road. Johnson had been running at the front of the field for much of the final stage when the incident happened. The incident also involved Tyler Reddick, B.J. McLeod and Cody Ware. It began when Ware made contact with McLeod, his teammate, near the entrance to pit road and sent them both into a spin. Ware slammed into the back of Reddick's No. 31 Chevrolet. Reddick then clipped the left rear of Johnson's number 48 Chevrolet. Stenhouse was then caught from behind by Ware. Stenhouse, Johnson, Reddick and McLeod were able to continue. Johnson was then held for a 2-lap penalty for improper fueling after his fuel man did more than put fuel in his car. Check back for more. The first major incident of Sunday's Daytona 500 occurred on lap 49 when 6 cars were involved in a wreck coming off turn 2 at Daytona International Speedway. Kurt Busch appeared to be hit in the left rear by Ricky Stenhouse Jr., even though Stenhouse said on his team radio that he did not touch Busch's No. Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick were also involved, as well as Austin Dillon and Jamie McMurray, making his last NASCAR Cup appearance of his career. All drivers took their cars to pit road for repairs. The race returned to green conditions on lap 54. Daytona Beach, Florida. NASCAR Chairman Jim France spoke briefly to competitors at the start of the drivers' meeting Sunday, reaffirming the France family's commitment to NASCAR and asking drivers to join Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott on the bottom lane during the Daytona 500 to put on a good show today, after days of single-file racing at Speed Weeks. France, who took over for Brian France in August after his nephew's arrest for aggravated driving while intoxicated and criminal possession of a controlled substance in the 7th degree, represented NASCAR's leadership in speaking to the drivers before the first race of the season. It was one of his few public appearances. He has yet to grant an interview since becoming NASCAR's chairman. France spoke to competitors with niece Lisa France Kennedy, NASCAR vice chairperson, standing beside him. On behalf of Lisa, Ben, Kennedy, and myself, welcome all of you to the 61st running of the Great America Race, the Daytona 500. Also, I'd like to recognize some of the family members. There's not time to recognize all of them, but this sport was built by families. You have the Petty family, the Earnhardt family, the Jarretts. I could go on and on all morning, but I know that you've got other things to do. This sport was built by families and we're just a part of it. It's so important that we remember that this is still a family business. Our family is committed to it. It's a tough sport, tough business. It's hard, but we've got a soft family side and that's what makes NASCAR special. So on behalf of us and all of us in this room, we appreciate the great drivers, the great teams and the great sponsors that are here today making this happen. And I've got just one other little thing, two things, WAD. One of my big hopes was one day I would be passing out a trophy in victory lane to Ben. He and I still have that plan, but don't tell Lisa. The other thing is that I hope a few of you drivers out there will get down on the bottom with Denny and Chase and put on a good show today. France reaffirming the family's commitment to NASCAR comes as NASCAR seeks to take over International Speedway Corp. ISC is run by the France family and operates tracks, including Daytona International Speedway, Talladega Superspeedway and Homestead Miami Speedway, among others. NASCAR announced in November that it had made an offer to purchase all outstanding shares of Class A and Class B common stock in International Speedway Corp. That came after reports that NASCAR was looking to purchase a stake in the company. This weekend's Daytona 500 means one of the high points of NASCAR for Richard Petty is getting its yearly workout on the highlight reels. That is the end of the 1979 Daytona 500, a race that helped launch NASCAR into the mainstream and has been a defining moment over the last 40 years. With much of the East Coast trapped indoors due to a snowstorm, a large audience tuned in to the first live flag-to-flag broadcast of the Great American Race on CBS. It wasn't but 3 TV stations at that particular time, Richard Petty said Friday at Daytona International Speedway. If you was going to watch TV, then the racing was probably what people were watching, with Ken Squire calling the action. Viewers saw race leaders Donnie Allison and Cale Yarborough wreck on the backstretch, half a lap from the checkered flag. Petty, who was running in third, assumed the lead and won his 6th Daytona 500. But as Petty drove to victory lane, Squire jumped in with an important news bulletin, and there's a fight between Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison. The tempers are overflowing, they're angry, they know they have lost. And what a bitter defeat. The fight in the Turn 3 grass, which included Donnie Allison's brother, Bobby Allison, may have been bitter at the time, but proved immensely positive for fueling NASCAR's growth. You come down to the last lap, you see the rednecks come out in the racing part of it, Petty said. It was a perfect storm the way it wound up, with the weather, the way the race ended. It couldn't have been a better footstep for NASCAR at that particular time. 4 decades later, few Cup stars were even alive for that race. Jimmy Johnson and Kevin Harvick were 3, Jamie McMurray was 2, Ryan Newman was 14 months old and Kurt Busch was born 6 months earlier. What do some drivers who were born after 1979 think of the moment they've only known through highlights? Here's a few thoughts from Wednesday's Daytona 500 Media Day. Denny Hamlin, born November 1980, I just see what every other person saw on TV. I'm always interested to hear how it all happened. When they cut away for a while talking to other drivers and commentating on things happening, they kind of caught it mid-fight. Who did the shoving first? I think it's important because it really was the defining moment of when the biggest audience was watching NASCAR, and so they latched onto that, and that was something people really loved. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. October 1987, it's cool. If you need to throw down, throw down. Austin Dillon, April 1990. I've probably been seeing that clip for a long time since I've been watching a lot of Daytona 500s. I don't know what my first clip would be, but I guess understanding it and how important it was to our sport. I was probably 12, 13 when I really kind of got it. 14. There's a lot of things throughout history and sports that don't pertain necessarily to the sport that were important to the sport. You know, it's huge because it's entertainment, and that's what we're trying to do, is entertain fans, and the moment we get away from that, we lose our fans. We need to stay entertaining, and that's a part of it. Joey Logano, May 1990. That's the biggest race of the year, whether it's now or then. It was a big deal to win the Daytona 500, and it still will be, and it is. They play the highlight every year about 5 or 6 times, so I'm sure I was a little guy the first time I saw it. Kyle Larson, July 1992. I guess you see it in highlight films all the time. So I feel like that moment is something that helped grow NASCAR at the time. But yeah, when I drive through the tunnel to the infield, I don't think about the fight. But no, it was definitely a moment that will live on in NASCAR's history. William Byron, in November 1997. I'm so young, I wasn't around for a lot of that, I guess, like growing up watching honestly Jimmy Johnson and crew chief Chad Knaus win races at the 500, then watching Kevin Harvick win in 2007, those are the races that stick in my mind. I'm trying to make memories of myself. It's cool to see some of that stuff come around full circle. Some of the drivers were asked if it was possible for such a moment to happen again to the sport. Hamlin said it definitely can. Sometimes it happens in the motorhome lot. It's not on the backstretch, he said. They also happen on pit road, as Larson pointed out. Kyle Busch tried to punch Logano in the face a couple of years ago at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, so yeah, it could happen.